Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Each time there's a set of meetings like this, there comes a final channeling, a final message. It occurs to many of you that there would never be this exact group together in this way again. Oh, there would be similar ones. You may even come to see the channeling yet again at another time. But this family is unique. You might say it's a onesie. It's a group that is together with a consciousness that lies just for a little while, 2 days, 3 days, sometimes 4. And then it moves on. That is a very linear thought, coming from a place where you design meetings in a linear fashion, in a linear time. A place is designated, you arrive, you leave, all basic three-dimensional things. I've said it before. You carry with you the consciousness of the family as long as you live, if you wish. You place it in that area of your consciousness that is timeless. A place where you can remember memories when you were a child, or perhaps even things in the future that you might expect. That's where it goes. A timeless place that says it's always real. It always will be. There's a place, dear ones, that's beautiful in your brain that allows these kinds of things, and you know it. You have flashbacks, perhaps to beginning school days or friends that don't exist anymore, or memories with loved ones that don't exist anymore, and it's so very real, and you can hear their voice and smell them and remember the times you had that are beautiful. And in some ways, it elicits not sadness, but celebration. And you're right back where it happened. That place in your brain, not a place at all. It's a multidimensional paradigm that allows more than memory. It stores emotion. Let these moments of enjoyment, of mature learning, of fun, endure in that place. So that anytime you want to, you rekindle the family. And when you do it, I want you to know something. That the ones that you've come to see that channel in the meeting are with you again. We are multidimensional, dear ones. All the ones that are pulled from that space on the other side of the veil are already in that state. And we'll be right here with you when you do it. That's a promise. You can feel it. You can sense it. The human being makes things linear and literal. And you walk into a place that is becoming multidimensional and non-literal. Non-linear is difficult for you. And the most difficult thing is that which you are trying to create for yourself. Over and over, the messages have been from Kryon, from Adironda, from the humans that teach around them, that you are able to create a reality that you can envision. This seems so far-fetched to so many who would hear this, that you would actually have energy and control over chance. For there are those who would say that life would be only chance. You run into a certain person, something happens, and we're telling you that that is not the way it works. And the ones who would criticize this would use the logic and say it has to be chance. Otherwise, if it were not, there would have to be a plan. Where people were that you don't know. Having them meet you is as difficult as you is meeting them. They have to be where you are by chance. Therefore, the odds are spectacularly not in your favor. That you would be able to create scenarios by yourself with your consciousness that would put you places. And that's where I want to correct the critic. For no one said that you're going to create this by yourself. And there is a plan. This is where it gets complex to the linear mind. And the ones who would be literal in looking at how things work as they perceive them. I want to give you review, instructions again, of how this works. And plug in to that some frustrations that you feel. While you're being frustrated that things are not working out the way you envision them, things are working around like a clock, like the gears of not chance but of specificity, in order to create a reality not just for you, but for others who have also asked for the same thing. And this may sound to you to be very, very confusing. It doesn't have to be. First, let us give you one of the axioms that I've given you over and over and over. You don't have to understand the minutia of it to participate in it. You just don't. And there would be those who would even argue with that. And they say, yes, I do. I cannot get from A to B without knowing the roadmap. You're asking me to float around and just show up at B without knowing where A or B is. And I'm saying to you, you got it. That's exactly right. We have to trust the process. The process. Again and again, I bring it down to the level you would understand. You leave the room later. And most of you will get in an automobile. And before you turn the ignition and start the engine, what do? Let me guess. You get out the manual for the internal combustion engine, and you study every single aspect of the gear ratios and the fluid mechanics that are going to get you to where you're going. And you say, well, that's ridiculous. Yes, it is. Are you getting the point? But you trust the process under the hood, don't you? To get you where you're going. And you trust it, and it does. And it's as simple as that. The experiences you've had with the automobile are designed so you never have to look under the hood. They're designed so that it will get you from A to B. And that is its design. And what I'm telling you this is you're designed in order to go from A to B in these things which we are teaching about innate, and these things which you're teaching about trust. And that is not anything to do with chance, dear ones. Nothing. Yesterday, my partner showed you the experiments that prove, without a doubt, measured by satellites, without a doubt, that you can then change a reality with consciousness. In one case, it actually changed the strength of the magnetic grid with consciousness. In the other case, it interrupted chance. And that's what we'll get to. That's what we teach. That's a process. And if you understood it, and if you trust it, then you start to understand, I can design my life. When I leave the room, I will start expecting benevolent things. But more than that, let's talk about what you actually want to do. I'm going to give you an example. that involves all the frustrations that you have. Number one, patience. You don't have any. Because you think that when you make an order in a restaurant, eventually, sooner than later, it will be fulfilled. And in that same linear fashion, you're conceiving that what you're asking for from Spirit has to go to some spiritual kitchen and be cooked. And you're going to wait for it, and it will arrive. And that is simplicity. Let me tell you how it works. There is an overview of every human on the planet and the consciousness of every human on the planet. And what you often are asking for in life, let's say it is to be a certain thing or to accomplish certain things and to be something that you have always envisioned, and that is it. And in order for that, you got to meet people. Things have to happen to you. Situations must change. And we've told you before that what you can envision, you can have. But it has to be in all appropriateness with everything around you. Now, for that to happen, you must understand that there are others that also have to interface with this same plan of yours. But they exist, and that's it. What if your plan was an intuitive plan that you've always had, because in that which is the field, it's manifestable? Because there are others with the same plan wishing to meet you. Have you thought of that? And if that's the case, what do you think would be the complexity of having that other person in the right place at the right time where you arrive and you both seemingly believe it's chance? Maybe there's a little time involved. And during that time, maybe you'll have other things to do instead of deciding it's not working. Let's talk about woe. Woe is a woe man. Today he's a man. And in this little story, he has taken this and cognized it. And he said, I am going to meet a man, and together we are going to have an invention or a business that I've always wanted to be in. It's going to help people. I know it. I had 2 psychics tell me that's where it could go. I heard this. I feel this. I know this. Then I went to a meeting where Kryon, well, he said it's possible with intent. Not only that, Kryon gave another parable early on. Kryon said it's like getting the ticket to the train. Here's your ticket. Now there's no schedule on it of when the train is coming. But you got a ticket to ride. And so there's no question you're going to go. And you're going to happen. It's going to happen in this lifetime. And that is the linear part. And that's all you know. So you take the ticket and you show up at the place where the train tracks are. And there's the little depot. That's where you wait. And wait. And wait some more. Then you start tapping your toe, and then you start doubting whether really it's going to happen at all. That's when you reach in your pocket and examine the ticket and say, yeah, the ticket says I'm going on the train, and the train's going to take me to this thing I want, and all. And then you start looking at the ticket again, and you realize, well, it doesn't say anything about a train, really. Not really. But that's the metaphor here. Kryon talked about going and having the train arrive, and I don't see, I haven't seen any trains arrive, and that bothers me. So the first thing I'm going to tell you, and the advice I'm going to give you, if this is you and this suits you, I want you to forget it. I want you to forget the goal. Because if you concentrate on the goal that you created, it's going to stop it. Because the goal of what's going to happen may actually be far beyond or different than what you think you are headed for. Would it be all right if it was better than you created? Hello? Yes, yeah, I know. Again, would it be all right if it's better than your vision? Yes. All right. So here's the point. If you're holding on to that vision and that's all you see, you're blocking it. Do you see that? So here is woe at the station, looking in both directions for the train. And he looks to the left and he looks to the right, and he does it for months. And he's just sitting there. Sure, he gets his meals. Sure, he has a little depot. He gets to go to the bathroom, all of these things. But he's sitting and waiting for the train. Wait. Pretty soon he gets really disgusted, almost ready to tear up his ticket. And finally he does. Kryon's wrong. This is not working. Dear angels, tears up the ticket, puts it on the ground, walks into the depot, has to go to the bathroom, and runs right into the dude he was supposed to meet in the bathroom. Dude is language from my partner. Do you see what just happened? The man he met was exactly what he had hoped for and more. There was far more. And the man he met was on the other side with other tracks. He had torn up his ticket and he was going to the bathroom. And that's where they met. And this all to tell you that you cannot then count on what you expect as a goal and keep it there and lift it up and draw it in your mind over and over and think that that's what Spirit's going to deliver to you. What you have to do is release it and say this or something better. I'm all right to go to a different direction, maybe not even the train station. I've got a ticket. Maybe it's not even for a train. Maybe it's just for a ticket for synchronicity. Maybe it's a ticket to meet somebody in the bathroom. And you don't know. You just don't know. And that's the point. You didn't have to do the minutia of the engine in the car. You don't have to do the minutia here. What you have to do is live your life with expectation, with compassion. The expectation is in benevolence and solution, and that you will always be guided to be in the right place at the right time. So when that person comes, no matter where they come to, accidentally, you'll meet them. And you'll recognize it. It may even be in a meeting like this, where you'll meet them. Maybe it's not the person, but maybe it's a person who knows the person, who will then take you there in some way. Maybe it's two people removed, but it'll happen. And there are stories within stories, even in this group and those listening to this channel, that will say, that's what happened to me. I wasn't expecting it, and that's what happened to me. I couldn't believe it. And if it hadn't been for being in this place I never really thought I'd even be, it never would have happened. And then you say, well, what made you go to that place? And they'll say, I don't know. And that's just a way of saying intuition, that you don't understand yet. It's not linear, but it felt right and you went. And that's the answer. Let these kinds of new paradigms guide your life in a way that your parents never taught you. Be in places because you feel you should be, instead of that is the thing that somebody told you to do. Feel that which is the reality of the next step, or going left or going right, with all integrity and responsibility to be in the right place at the right time. I think so many times of those who said, I was pulled out of my city, and I knew I had to start this healing center, and I used all my credit cards, and I went someplace else, and I tried this and that, and it all failed, and I had to come back and live with Mom. Mom had a friend, and that's where I met my life's partner. I had to come back, and they wanted to start a healing center. And that's how it works. You think you know, You think you got it figured out. Sometimes you act way too soon, not understanding that when you get instructions from that other side of the veil and you think things happen to you that give you vision, that it doesn't mean necessarily immediately or right now. It means this is what you're waiting for. Now have the patience to be in the right place at the right time and follow the guidance of your intuition, not of your logic, not of the way you think it works. And in the process, be loved the whole time. Instead of frustration, peace. Knowing that what it is that you desire indeed will be yours. It's not a trick, it's a plan. And it's consciousness that is so powerful in the human that creates this. Not from some angelic source, not from the creative source. It's you working with the plan that was built and designed so that humans can work with one another, find one another, love one another, and be peaceful in the process. That's the message. It always will be. So, dear human beings of a family group that is unique tonight, I want you to recreate this family. Anytime you want, I'll be there. Adirondha will be there. And you'll hear the wisdom yet again in a different way, coming from the other side of the veil for you, because that's the design. And because you're magnificent, that's the design. Think of these things and leave differently than you came. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service.
And my partner steps aside. This is called channeling. And it's mysterious to many. It's beautiful to us. It is a method whereby the multi-dimensional source of creation, which many of you call sacredness and God, has a chance to communicate with that which you have called humanism. And in the process, we call it soul communication. And it's different, dear ones, than human communication. And so we would like to start a series of channelings that would include the explanation of what we have called soul communication. Let us begin with some basics. No, let us not. Let us begin with some basics. We know who you are in this room. Dear ones, I want to teach. But not without first acknowledging the family. I want to teach you about you. Everything I'm going to do in this chair that my partner has allowed me to do, as he steps aside, he doesn't know what's coming. He's practiced this. He's practiced not knowing what's coming. He's practiced allowance without filters. I'm going to explain that eventually. And so I am open in this portal, which you call channeling, to allow for a third language to come flowing in that you can feel in an interdimensional way that is not with words and not linear. And some of you will. This particular channel is being published, and some of you are listening and reading. And this is open to you as well, for I know of the potential of your listening and reading. Odd as it may sound to you, this is part of the interdimensional potentials that God has as the central source the potentials of your awakening itself, that you would pick it up and look at it. It's there. We see it as reality even before it happens. We got to start with the basics. Human consciousness is complex. There will come a day when scientists may consider human consciousness as a branch of physics, because it does not follow the patterns of linear physics, even the patterns of quantum physics, because it is what they would call biased in directions of personality, events, akash. It's complicated. So the rules would be very, very basic, but they're outside of that, which is three-dimensional physics as it is known today. And so to describe communications in this fashion goes beyond the limits of any understood science. It challenges you to think differently, act differently. Soul communication. And there are two ways. Communications from things to you that are multidimensional, and from you to them, which is multidimensional. There is the difference between linear and non-linear communications. I am going to explain it the best I can, with explanations perhaps I've not given before. I want you to consider for a moment you have an old typewriter. And you are typing along, and as you type along, you will see the letters on the page, one after another, appear. Pretty soon you have words, and then sentences, and then thought groups. This is linear communication. Now, what you are beholding at the moment, whether you're reading or hearing, is the same. One word after another, in a structure for the language of my partner. It is linear. It is in a row, in a line, like the typewritten words on the page. That is linear communication. That is human communication. Non-linear communication would be as follows. Now pay attention, for this is going to be what my partner calls a stretch. Pretend that the typewriter is stuck. And you can type all day long, but you're only going to have one image. Every letter is going to show itself over the other. You type away, it does not advance at all. It simply types over itself, one letter. Now, what would you see on the page, dear one, at the end of a long letter to a friend? A smudge. All the letters piled up, inking over one another. You'd have no idea. You would look at it and you'd be sorry that the typewriter failed and you hadn't noticed. Now consider for a moment somebody comes along and they have non-linear communication skills. They would look at the smudge and see the letter. And that's as clear as I can make it. They're conceptual. They would see the thought that went into it. They would see the linearity outside of its linearity. The letters are there, dear ones, but they're not there in linear form. They're all together as a group. Therefore, a non-linear communicator will see the smudge and see the entire letter. Now, there's an attribute of this, and it's difficult to describe to you. And it's out of the logic that you would have, and yet it is. And so let me try to explain it. My partner goes slowly, so this will be understood. When the conceptual person looks at the smudge, they're looking at something that exists already. A letter has been typed. So they're not making something up. They are simply reading something in a non-linear way. The letter has been written. Oddly, all in one smudge, but it has been written. There is an attribute of a non-linear mind, which you call autism, that you should study. There are many autistic human beings who can tell you the day of the week of a future date in any year, in any month. If you would ask that person, what is the day of the week in May of 2035? And they would come up with it, maybe a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And it would be there, and they would do it instantly. You would gasp at their computational efforts. And here is the answer. Computation has nothing to do with it. It's not a formula. It's not math. It exists. And so it is known. You can go to any computer that is calendar friendly and find that information because it already exists. It's a concept that has already been developed and known. The nonlinear mind, therefore, is able to go to it and interpret it instantly because they see the concept. They're not calculating anything. Now you know the difference between linear and nonlinear. There's a lot of communication that wants to come to you from all manner of sources. So I'm going to start the list. Channeling is what you're hearing right now. My partner has practiced it for 23 years. When he started, it was ugly. For we're not speaking to him in a linear fashion. You see, he is a master interpreter of nonlinear concepts coming through his pineal. Now I am speaking to him in his real time, and he is interpreting. So it sounds like a flow of linear words, but it's a thought group that I keep giving him over and over. You see, we have practiced together. We both had to adjust. When we started, I gave him the concept like the letter in one smudge, like that. And then he had to remember what it said and give you the channeling, and he wasn't very good at it. And then we realized that if we kept giving him the smudge over and over, that he could interpret it in a linear fashion. And so we repeat the concepts. By the way, I just gave you the secret to graduate intuitive thought. Ask for Spirit to repeat the intuitive thought. Now, my partner didn't even teach that today, and I had to come along with the obvious. Repeat it. That should be your request to Spirit when you don't understand what it is. Repeat it. And have that intuitive thought then repeat it, so that you can grasp it and see it for it is beauty and its clarity. And we will. We want to meet you in between the linear and non-linear veil. Do you realize this is why Spirit has talked to humanity in quatrains and in metaphors forever? That's all we have. And the interpretation of these things then become puzzles. People reading Scripture, why can't you talk normally, Spirit? Because we are not linear. The channeling is not linear, but it sounds like it is because we continue to repeat the smudge. And even this channeling, all of it, as long as it is on the clock for you to see, as long as it takes, is all being given at the same time to my partner over and over, so he can see it. And so we begin. What is this channeling? It is the pineal opening up and giving my partner these communications and allowing him to interpret him through his experience, interpreting them and giving them to you. It is a form of communication that is open to all humanity, and you don't have to call it channeling. You can call it whatever you want to, and every single human being is open to learning it. Not necessarily for others. How about just for yourself? Some call it automatic writing. This is a communication portal that opens through the pineal for you, and it is not from the brain. And we've said this before. This is soul communication. This is multidimensional communication. It has nothing to do with synapse. Nothing. It is not a brain function. That's why it's hard. Now, there's many kinds of communications from many things. Let us speak of the difficulty yet again. Anything I'm going to mention from now on in this section of others communicating to you must be interpreted. What else is there? There are many things. So I'm giving my partner a list, and he can choose what he wants to talk about in the time that he has. Personal. Let's talk about personal. How can you hear what Spirit or any other multidimensional source has for you when it doesn't come in a linear fashion? And my partner gave it today, and the answer is through practice of recognizing intuitive thought. And not, number one, not trying to interpret it with your intellect. Do not let the synapse of your brain get in the way of God. Do I have to say that again? You will learn to put it aside. What is it that my partner had to learn as the engineer in order to channel? To get out of the way. To stop analyzing. If it's him, is he making it up? Is it from his brain? Or is it bigger than that? So for you personally, dear one, this is what you have to do. Now there's many sources other than that which you call God that wish to speak to you in this fashion. We'll get there. But if it's a non-linear source, it's going to come through intuitive thought, not synapse. Where do we go next with this? Let's talk about animals. You love them, don't you? And what do you know about animals? The ones you have and are in love with, that you call pets, have personalities. And they can talk to you. And what does that sound like, dear one? What does their voice sound like? And you go, well, Kryon, you already know they don't have a voice. Oh, really? Then how do they talk to you? Now it gets good, doesn't it? Through concepts. Their conceptual thought groups are available to pick up, guess where? Through your pineal, which is the interpreter of multidimensional things in your body, not your brain, and will give you the same thought groups they have. And some of you are good at it. There's ones who are listening to this right now, called animal whisperers. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Why do they call it whispering? I'll give you my interpretation. Because it's not linear. Because it whispers to your mind through the pineal and comes in the thought group very softly, all at once, like a smudge. You know what the dog is thinking. You know what the cat is thinking. You know what the horse is thinking. The requests they have, perhaps the distress they have, perhaps the celebration or the love. Now this is easy for you. Easy. Because you all have felt this. You know what I'm speaking about. This is not different than the same muscle that you're going to use in meditation to listen to God. It's the same apparatus of your system. So is it true that communicating with animals is soul communication? Yes! There's to yours. And if you're good at that, why not go then and not doubt yourself? And be good at that which is within your own higher self. Now, I just gave away who you're communicating with. Your higher self is that self which vibrates higher than you are. It's part of your soul group, the core. And this is what gives you information from the other side of the veil, which you call angelic, sacred God. It's the same as in animals. Did you know, here's another one, in the list that I'm giving my partner. Did you know that actions are communication? When my partner speaks about the grid, and when you sense that which is crystalline grid, the battlefield, what has happened there, it's concepts. And it's coming through the pineal. And it's thought groups, not linear communication. Some of you are good at that. You are proud that you can feel energy where you go. You can feel the energy of a group. You can feel the energy of the land, which is the crystalline grid. You can feel the energy of a situation. And you're good at it. What are you feeling? This is soul communication at its best. It does not come from the brain. It is not intellectual. This is physics. You are picking it up through the pineal, interpreting it, and you get the information. Something has happened on the ground where you are. It may take you to your knees. That's communication. Beautiful. But you had to interpret it. Why is it that the communication which is so personal to you is the hardest to interpret? You with you. This is what the teaching is today, trying to open that up. There are many other kinds of communication. What about those other things and what I'll call universal communication? When you walk into the forest and the trees talk to you, what's their voice sound like? Am I getting through to you? You are able to hear these things in your own way. They are not synaptical. It's another kind of physics. It's soul communication, and they're talking right to that part of your consciousness, your Merkaba, your quantum field that makes sense to you because it's conceptual. Are the trees in trouble? Are they crying? Are they celebrating? And there are those of you who are hearing my voice and in this room who know the answers to all of those. Kryon, is it true that in the forest there are what you would call divas? Here's my answer. Are you kidding? Of course. Of course. What are they? They are multidimensional aspects of Gaia. I love it. When human beings cannot get that, they want to dress them up and put outfits on them, make them little, call them different things. Give them voices, put them in movies. They're beautiful, and you know they are. And they're everywhere. Go into the forest. They'll talk to you. Sit down in the grass and let them land on you. Now that's linear. I want you to picture that, and they will. They're not landing anywhere. They just are. They're part of the soup that is Gaia, that is Mother Nature, the personality of the love of the planet for humanity as it walks into it. It's a celebration of your life. You're not going to get bad things from a diva. You're not going to get bad information from hugging a tree. You know that, don't you? What does that tell you about how Gaia feels about you? That's just a few of the things when it comes to the subject of communications to you. Let's talk about the other one, and then we'll close it off. And we'll continue tomorrow. Now, my partner, it's important that you record all of these things and present them so that those who are not here tomorrow can hear the rest of the story. That is your challenge. What about you communicating the other direction? Now, you have got linear communication. That's all you've got. you do not have necessarily the tools for multidimensional communication. Now you can develop them, and many of you have, but in general, you've got linear communication. So what about you with spirit? Let me tell you the truth. Dear ones, we don't have any trouble understanding you because we are the master interpreters. We know exactly what you're saying. And it doesn't matter whether you're thinking it or whether you're saying it or you're just thinking about thinking it or saying it. We know. Because we're with you all the time. The higher self, which vibrates above the corporeal self, knows the psyche of your mind. And when you sit to meditate, we know what you're going to do before you do it because the potentials are there. You're already thinking about it before you do it. I'll give you some rules. Stop giving us laundry lists of what you want. We know what you want. Sit and say to us, Dear Spirit, tell me what it is you want me to know. Because we're already on board with everything in your life. Do I have to say that again? We're already on board with everything in your life. Come to us and let us talk to you. Just let us talk. And try to interpret the thought groups that come first without analyzing. Get used to this. But as far as you talking to us, it doesn't matter how you do it. Now, there will be those that say, well, there has to be wrong ways to do it. No, there aren't. No, there aren't. Well, Kryon, what do you think about religious groups who have to face a certain direction or have a prayer rug or wear something special? And what I say to you is, let them do that. It honors God. In their culture, it honors God. Is there anything better than that to prepare them to talk to us? The same love goes into their communications as yours. The cultural differences between you do not compute to the other side of the veil, for we see a human as the human, the corporeal piece of God that you are. It doesn't matter what you're wearing or what you're sitting on. Is that clear? There is no wrong way to speak to creative source. Well, maybe, Kryon, there isn't, but I've had a few times when I was yelling at God. And we heard you, but we did not hear the yell. That's linear. This is hard to explain. What we heard is loving frustration. Loving frustration. We heard the yell. We didn't see the anger. You weren't angry. You were frustrated. And that's the time when we want to surround you the most. The more you yell at God, the more there are angels around you wanting to hold your hand and take you if you'd let us. Next time you decide to yell at God, would you also open your heart and let us hold you for a while? Is that okay? In the moment of greatest frustration that you have, where you have no answers at all and you can't figure it out, can you just be held? Is that all right? Because we're here for that. Old soul, you got to get used to this communication. This is so available. Actions are a language. How you behave talks to the crystalline grid, talks to the Gaia grid. What you think talks to the magnetic grid, which we have called the seat of human consciousness. Without you saying a thing, that's another way of communicating to everything around you. What you say out of your mouth in linear fashion, the cells of your body hear. How many self-help gurus have had to tell you that you're going to bring to you what you say? Why is it that hypochondriacs bring to themselves the very diseases that they fear the most and talk about? Because the body hears them and gives them what they ask for. The body is listening. The grids are listening. Even the human beings around you are listening. Do you spin in drama? Here we are again. Is this attractive to other human beings? Have you ever thought about that? What do you want to show somebody about your belief system? That you're out of balance? And that they ought to do what you do? Think about it. How are you presenting mastery to humanity, old soul? What have you learned through all of the ages that you brought to the party today? And is it spinning? Or is it love? Well, Kryon, that's easier said than done. How do you stop spinning? I just told you. If you'll open your heart and allow these things to communicate, it's going to start a peaceful countenance with you. This is called awakening to spirit. Getting out of the old habits and the old fears. And starting to claim the part of the old soul which is you, available to you and to humanity, for those around you. So much to be told about how you communicate with others. Multidimensional communication. Those of you who are good at speaking to the animals, not listening, but speaking to them, have developed thought group communication. You're already on board. For the best kind of soul communication there is, you're starting to think out of the box. You're looking into the animal's eyes and you're giving them pictures, aren't you? And they're getting it, aren't they? It ought to tell you, this can work. Humans can develop multidimensional attributes and characteristics that are entirely consciousness-driven, sent through the pineal to anywhere you want. There are helpers around you, we've told you. Do I have to list them? Entities, groups, all around you that are not from here. Not just the Pleiadians, Arcturians, Orions, Hathors, from Sirius, endless. And you know what they have in common? Non-linear thought. And you can communicate with them the same way you do with animals. Dear human being, soul communication, we're going to open the door before we close to this and tell you this is something we want you to consider and to study, to know about, to realize. Don't let it be mysterious. I've just given you the attributes of to and from, or from and to. In the next section, I'll continue with another subject. What is it that blocks it? What are filters? What can you do to enhance it? Soul communication is part of what the old soul must get into and learn. And the answer of what it's going to create is balance on the planet and peace on earth. It begins here. It begins with understanding, demystifying. There is structure in these things. There is a benevolent system in these things. There is common sense in these things. We invite you to find it, for it will create spiritual evolution on this planet, led by the very ones who are reading and listening to this voice. Family, that's the lesson for today. It's beautiful, isn't it? All we want to do is communicate. And it's time to get on with it. Explaining how it works, the suggestions of how to make it better, even the very thing you hear now, which is channeling. Demystifying what some have called spooky, unnatural, weird, just because it isn't linear. We'll stand by for lots of things that aren't linear. And the one that is the greatest of all is love. I can't explain it, can you? Emulate it.
and so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. The room is filled with those I know. Those who listen later, I know. And this is because all of you are part of a larger family. A family that hides from you while you're here. And I want to talk about something. It's a subject we have broached before, but not necessarily in this way. Here is a brand new energy for the planet, and you are in transition between a consciousness of the past and that which is a promise of the future. How many times have we told you that moving literally from a darker area to a lighter area brings with it joy, anticipation, and also the old energy? For a flash bulb doesn't simply go off and everything is fine. Instead, you have to work the puzzle. We've given you many channels about what takes place when you move from a lower to a higher place. Some of the habits, some of the biases, some of the things you don't even know you've done. There is one thing, however, which is common to most. Something that has got to be cleared. Not because there's old things attaching to it. Something that has to be cleared because of who you are. And when you hear what it is, you'll know. For we've spoken of it before. So let's begin at the beginning. Things that you should know about yourself, not what you've been told is there. Things spiritually that are so true and beautiful that perhaps you've forgotten. Things that are not taught today in the spiritual systems that you have. Not like this. I want to go back to the beginning. And the beginning, as I am going to see and say, is with the teaching that began. Dear ones, you have a creation story all over the planet. Various cultures have various creation stories. The one that in this culture you may have grown up with, the most popular one, is very similar to the one that we teach as the seeding of the planet. So listen again for just a moment about this amazing thing that took place biologically, esoterically, with humans about 200,000 years ago. There was a shift, a change, a major one. And if you wipe away all of the physics of it and the physicalness of it, what really took place was a beautiful switch, an implantation within the human being of discernment of light and dark. The knowledge for the first time of the Creator. Free choice to see it or not. Intuition. Beauty. Discernment. All of these things were new. There was a leap in evolution 200,000 years ago, designed not by accident. It is the creation story. It's in your Holy Scripture, told perhaps differently, but it's there, the same story. That you are human beings mammals like any other on the planet, and something happened. An angelic force came down. And with the creation story you heard, it was the Adam, it was the Eve, it was the Garden of Eden, all metaphors, again, for what took place that we've told you about, where you received the beautiful knowledge of light and dark, discernment, choice. It's all over the planet. So now I'm going to put you in the place of the Creator, just for a moment. The question of, like, what would you have done? Let's say that you have the mind of God. And let us say that you have seen this miracle. It's gone by design and you were watching it. What would you do next after the seeding had been complete? To give you a hint of where I'm going, let us say you take a small child and you say, I'm going to give you something amazing and beautiful. I'm going to put you in a library with the knowledge of everything. And you can then choose between the books. And then you go away and you say on the way out, oh, sorry, we never taught you to read. Thousands of books, and you can't touch them. You don't know what's in them. So would it make more sense to have a creation story accompanied then by teaching? And their scripture says nothing about that, nothing at all. So human beings are then given all of this and then left to fend for themselves. There is no teaching from the angel. Truly, Scripture will tell you that the masters then came, and there were many of them. And through history and cultures, there were many of them. But the source that did the seeding, the angelic energy that had the force behind the creation story, simply left. And you were on your own, and then the stories began that you hear. But my story is different. It's more logical that the seeding occurred and the teaching began. You cannot take that kind of a change, place it on humanity, and walk away. Instead, we told you that those who gave you the seeds that were those from what you call the seven sisters, they stayed and they began the teaching. Now, the actual seeding began a long time ago. Very, very gradual, and much had to happen biologically before you got to a point where all were ready. And that was the 52,000 year point. There have been 2 cycles of the wobble of earth involved in human's civilization, where you were there in a succinct enough way to create that which you have done. Everything leading up to 52,000 years ago was preparation. And then came Lemuria. And then came other places on the planet where you were being taught. Not just Lemuria, there was more. Lemuria was special because it was isolated. And that means it could last far, far longer without any kind of visitation in the 30,000 years that the Lemurians were Pleiadians and had Pleiadian teachers. So here we are. The teaching started when the seeding was complete. You're not going to get that in Scripture. You're going to have a creation story, and then everybody's gone. That in itself, dear ones, does not make sense. It's not logical that God would put you in a place and give you this beautiful knowledge and then do nothing with it. No teaching, no instructions. It's almost like dark went to light and then the angels disappeared. That's not even logical, dear ones. No, there was teaching. And the first things that were taught, the first things, with the teaching wheel with 5 spokes, was, who are you? That is what the Pleiadians wanted you to know, where you were from, what this was about, how it works. All the teaching was there. The teaching of the return to the middle, the teaching that you have God inside, and the seeds of those who were teaching you. If the angels came down in the Garden of Eden and had Adam and Eve and did what you heard that they did, does it really make sense? They didn't say to both of them, and now you have what we have. And now you have that which is light in you. And now you have a piece of the Creator in you that we've just put in you. Use it wisely. Here are some hints. There was none of that that was given you. None of it. The truth is, we stayed and taught. The creative source represented by the Pleiadians stayed and taught. And we taught a long time. Doesn't make sense to give you the library without teaching you to read. And that's what we did. And the reason I'm telling you this is because you've lost something. And you need it back, and you need it back quickly. One of the most beautiful aspects that you were taught. The Pleiadian mothers, you call them the star mothers, the teachers, would sit. Beautiful information would come out, and they would tell the children. They would say, look at your mother, meaning the one who is the teacher, and they would say, I want you to gaze upon us because someday you will be us. We want you to gaze upon us from the stars because this is the lineage of earth. We want you to gaze on us and see the beauty of the God that created you is in us and is in you. We want you to understand that you will always return to the center. No matter how many lives you think you have, no matter how long you live, that it goes both ways. You come and go from this planet, the center. You come and go because this is the system. You see, you always return to the creation, and then you go back, and then you come and you go. It's beautiful. It's a push-pull system, coming and going with the beauty of God inside. You are God. That was taught to the children. And they understood it. They understood it because they were looking at it. They saw it. The children became adults. The children's children learned the same thing. And off they went akashically to be born yet again in other places on the planet to carry this message and carry this message and carry this message. And over civilizations, dear ones, with free choice, human nature and the efficiency of dark and light began to be changed. And you know what happened. With free choice, darkness was chosen over light. So many of the civilizations destroyed themselves because they didn't understand any more than darkness. Those who understood and still had that full experience of God inside were put aside and beat up. There was too much power in the light, and the darkness knew it. And slowly, you have what is that which you grew up in, dear ones. Civilization after civilization created much the same light and dark ratio. The light was hidden, put aside. It's interesting, in every single civilization, something took place. Secret societies sprung up. And the secret societies had to hide the knowledge of God inside. But the darkness said, look, there's a secret society there. They must be doing evil things. There must be sorcery there. Don't go there. Don't believe it. The beginning of conspiracies. The beginning of darkness in every corner. The beginning of mistrust. Even those who had the knowledge of God inside in a secret society were called the devil. And the darkness always seemed to win, because human beings would then believe the worst in everything. That defines dark energy. And the beauty of God inside was suppressed. It's almost like you had a piece of gold shining like the sun that was you. And over time, the dirt and the dust got on it, and the gold went away. And here you sit today with dusty gold. Now that's a metaphor for lack of self-worth. It's common. It's common not just with old souls. It's common for humans. For most of the humanity that has come and gone on this planet and reincarnated experienced this, just like you did. That to say that perhaps you were God, or you had any powers, or you knew how consciousness would work, would be a death sentence. Even the shamans, the ones who could make the magic, the ones that would be turned to change the weather, even they were in trouble all the time. Because if something didn't go exactly right, then they were blamed and often terminated. Some of you were them. You are your own ancients, and in that old soul, some of you were them. Some of you were born spiritual with knowledge, and as soon as you were able to grow up and walk, you were actually following the same path yet again. Never ever believing your parents, never ever going to certain kinds of religious structural organizations. Others of you awakened later. But all of you have dusty gold. Lack of self-worth comes from lifetimes of not being believed, of having to cower in the dark. Some of you have awakened with the knowledge intuitively not to push the envelope of light, just to behave yourself. Don't come out of the closet too quickly or at all, because you might face it again. But even the ones who've come out, even the ones who are teachers, even the ones who write the books, even the ones who sit in the chair and channel, have dusty gold. The truth was given to you, old soul, by those who seeded you. What you did with it, you get to look around and see. Morphed into rules, into negativity, into dysfunction, into many things. Even those who know the truth about the spoke of returning, about the original teaching, even if you know it, you've got dirty gold, dusty gold. In other words, in this room and listening to me, those humans who want to move forward so badly, those humans who say, yes, I'm seeing the light, still suffer from doubt, fear, and lack of self-worth. We know this. We know this. Now, I want you to cognize those words. Spirit, God, the creative source, anything you want to call it, knows of this issue and is ready to help you wipe away the dust so it can shine like the light. And all you have to do is start claiming it. And if you want something to imagine, if you want a visualization, use the one I've just given you. Old soul, you shine like the sun, like pure gold polished so you can see your face in it. And I want you to consider for a moment what it would be like to simply take your hand, even without a cloth, and brush away the dirt and the gold, the dust, and see in the gold your face. See the reflection of your own face in that. And the metaphor for you as you do it will be brushing away doubt, brushing away that which is something that you can't really identify what's wrong inside when you don't believe in things. What's wrong inside when you don't want to come along with a program of beauty or benevolence or compassion. What's wrong inside? What is it that blocks you from believing some of the things that are presented? That's the dust on the gold. It's history telling you it's not real. It's history that's telling you it's dark. It's history that's giving you conspiracies against it. It's all that you've been through. And right now, in this energy, in the light, that gold is waiting for you to simply brush the dust away. And when you do it, even when you begin to do it, even if you consider it, things start to change. If you want to grasp some of the principles that are given here by Kryon, in this chair, in the many chairs for 28 years, if you're ready to go to the next level, it's time to brush away the dust. Because that will be the catalyst for everything you've asked for. Oh, depressed one, I know who's here. I know who's listening. It is so difficult for you to climb out of this thing. Unless you knew something, we know the issue. God is not in a vacuum on the other side of some black veil. God is not judging you for what you've done or what you haven't done. Instead, God is there next to you, waiting and saying, brush it away, blow it away. Here's a cloth if you need it, but do it. And then you'll see who you are. Your face in the gold, the reflection of you, the image of love. The Pleiadian teachers taught the children that they were created in the image of love. That is the Creator. They were created in the image and the beauty of compassion. That is the Creator. That teaching is still with you. It's in your Akash. All you have to do is believe it and start brushing away the dirt, the dust, until you can see your reflection in it and say, I knew it. It's true. I am created in the image of love. Dear ones, this is going to be the major catalyst in this new energy for learning all the things you wish to learn. You cannot proceed much further and be in full and complete doubt of who you are. It doesn't happen quickly. It happens as slow or as fast as your past will allow it. Do you understand that? What have you experienced? What have you been taught? What has been drummed into you? For some, not much. For others, a lot. And so some will have to work harder at it. Oh, depressed one, I'm talking about you. But you have to know you have help. We are here. Spirit is here. Others around you are here to lift you up out of this depression and come to a place, listen to me, where you will never have the dust again. You will not go into depression again. The cycle that you're experiencing and have experienced all your life is over. I'm talking to somebody here. I'm talking also to several who are listening. The cycle will stop when you take the dust away and you finally see yourself as worthy to be on the planet. Not just worthy, you've got stuff to do. How does it feel to know that that is still there? You don't have to reach anywhere for it. You don't have to go anywhere for it. You don't have to study for it. Just blow the dust away. And what you're going to see is the beauty that you are. It's so much easier to see love and love yourself when you're not looking into something you can't even see, a mirror that is so dark. How are you going to see yourself to even know who you are when you're looking at a mirror that has so much dirt on it? Brush it away. Start to see that mirror, that reflection, that gold of God in you. It never changed. Only history changed it. Only what you were told it changed it. And it's time to grow up and make your own decisions about who you are and what your relationship is to the universe, to the Creator, to the God inside. Oh, beautiful one. Oh, magnificent human being. I know what that reflection looks like. Go do it. It's time. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. We continue. The messages from the other side of the veil, they don't change because the channelers change. The message is the message. You could have a number of channelers in the chair passing. Between them, message to message to message. And if they're really tuned in, it's the same message. One complements the other. And the message of the evening, right now, is a plea for self-awareness. It's a plea to drop that which is the human part of you just for a moment. Today you were taught about coherence. You got to see the example and hear the testimonies of those who discovered that if they can bring coherence to their life even for a moment or two, imagining compassion, imagining love, the chemistry of the body starts to cooperate with them to the degree that it continues to generate it. For hours and hours, it continues to generate it. We're going to talk about spiritual chemistry, and there is both esoteric consciousness and body involved in something that, yes, even the pineal gland is part of. It creates a comfort in you knowing absolutely, that you're loved. And yet you so seldom get there. That so much information is always going on in your mind that the whole idea of creating coherence starts to become viable, necessary, needed, so that you can stop the tapes, as we say, and start creating not a void, not a vacuum, but a clearing where you can stop everything and feel that which is your essence. And the essence that you have, every single one of you listening, everyone in the room, the real essence that you have is what you came in with. Dear ones, your chemistry and all that is esoteric in your body, your consciousness, and all designed on the other side of the veil to feel the presence of love. To know that this is temporary. To remember at some level what home is. And to create this as much as you can for yourselves. And in doing so, it creates it for others. And in doing so, the others create it for others. This is the prime directive, if you want to use the word, to find God inside. But there are so many who will say, I feel disconnected no matter what. It's really tough to stop the tapes. It's tough to even stop. Some have decided, well, you're going to do this through meditation. All well, all good, all beautiful. But then the meditation stops. There comes a time that it stops. And then you think to yourself, well, all I have done was to create spaces where I can be in touch with who I am, the other side of the veil. And that's really not what I want. I can't be in meditation 24/7. What is it that's going to allow me to not only feel this touch of the face of God in my life, but what is it that I could do that I could feel it all the time, no matter what? I can feel it while I'm cooking, while I'm cleaning, while I'm driving, while I'm at work, at the computer perhaps. Is this viable? Is it possible? Or does it have to be segmented into times when I'm aware and times when I'm not? What does that say about me? And yet, so many of you old souls are starting to ask that question. Because you're starting to understand and realize there's something there. For those of you in the meeting, in the room, there's something here. And it's not a man in the chair talking. There's an enormous energy, a coherence of God, if you wish, that presses upon you right now. Some of you can feel it. And in this, what is the prime directive from the other side of the veil? Why don't you get the prime directives together? I'll tell you what they are. Love, compassion, unconditional compassion. Have you ever thought there might be a time in a meeting like this where you could do something, create a space where whatever you did would last a lifetime? Create some kind of coherence that's so powerful that it sticks with you. It sticks with you so much, that's all you want. Because it feels so good. And then you realize you can create it by yourself. And then you realize self-realization. I'm a factory for spirit. Well, if you've wondered that, is it possible? Why don't we try it? And in this, a group of old souls of like mind, singular purpose and design, who understand the principles, in this we can help one another. When I say we, I'm speaking for my partner, who is also one of you in the chair. Here's the idea. You're going to open yourself up so much that the veil for a moment or two would open to whatever degree is appropriate for you and your life, and you would feel, for the first time perhaps, unconditional centering, unconditional love, as though you were an infant, helpless, in a space you hadn't been before, helpless in a way that was good, because there isn't anything you could do, no matter what flailing, that could change anything you were. And in that helplessness, you would feel the love of perhaps the greatest mother, father, the greatest parenting, the greatest compassion and love, all the relatives standing around looking at you saying, this is magnificent. This is the definition of compassion. And it would be all around you. This is not being self-centered. This is self-realization that you are known by God. And the metaphor of being known by God is so powerful. Not just known, cared about, loved. What gets in the way of you and this feeling is all of the training you've had that you can't go there. Or the training that you've had that says that God is real and loves you, but you can't go there. Not allowed. Or that perhaps you're not magnificent. Or perhaps you're one who is not worthy of the glory of the Creator. So why don't we just change that? For a moment, just for a moment. Are you able to drop the tapes, ignore the sounds around you, and create a timelessness for a moment that would let you feel everything that is yours from the other side of the veil? Stop the clock. Nothing is important. Just for a minute. Nothing is more important than the connection that you are built to have, that this shift is starting to move toward. Fast track this connection by this moment. We're going to turn it into a little meditation just right now, just for a moment. And if you're ready, let it begin right now. I would like to tell you something. You are known, every hair on your head or anywhere. You have hair everywhere. You have hair. Known by God, counted by God. Every chemical, everything in your body. Known by God. Shaking hands with that which is the Creator, whether you know it in your consciousness or not. That is how important you are. This creative source that you are looking at right now, face to face, eyeball to eyeball, is able to be with each one of you 24/7 in such a beautiful, personal, multidimensional way. There's no sharing where you have to have one human at a time. It's all together. All the hearts, all the compassion of the entire galaxy, the universe, right now, pouring through the veil to tell you one thing, that is, we know you. Your soul glows on this planet so much that we surround you with our love. You can never be alone. You have an entourage of your own that can take your hand at any moment, whether you know it or not, whether you let them or not. They're always ready, always ready, always ready. The compassion of the Creator is in your lap. Let it shine with you. Drop the pretenses. Drop the blah blah. Drop all the things that keep you from shaking this hand that has always been outstretched to you, because you are loved. You cannot conceive it. It is so beautiful, so precious, so bright, so pure, so pure. The consciousness of God is nothing like a human being. It is spectacular in its purity and its silence. This is who you are. Just for a moment. This is the real you. You're part of all of it. All of it. You're your own prophet. You're your own ancestor. So great is this. Come back slowly from this knowledge, this experience. And some of you will never be the same. Because it's a revelation. Nobody told you. It's a revelation that you can dig into the purity. And it becomes you. You've heard the expression, "Be still my heart," so many times. "Be still my soul," so many times. This is the expression that so many on this planet use. That would say, in the stillness of all things in your body, there is a revelation of God. Dear ones, you have the Creator inside you. It's built in. What we just did was not something that is unusual for you to get to a place where the Creator can touch you, because the Creator is inside you. What you've just done was to clear the fence so that you could touch each other. It's built in. You can do this as many times as you want to. It's an effort for some and easy for others, but it's a measure of the coherence you have with the creative source. The more you increase this coherence, the more this planet becomes lighter in so many ways. The end result, dear ones, is not peace on earth, because peace on earth will come with this light and coherence automatically. The goal for the planet is what you do after you have peace on earth. For that's when all of the inventions can be brought to you, when stillness is something that you could have simply by going there. When the buttons are gone that would be pressed in you, that would create fear and anger, distress and drama. This is not a fantasy. Some have felt the reality of this. There are still cultures on this planet who are embedded in this so grandly that they can control even their heart rate. They know who they are. Dear ones, I close with this. Known by God, not just 3 words. This is actionable. That is a word that means it's real. You can act on it. It is something that exists. It's not that which is so esoteric, it's only in this room. It is something you carry from this place, and you live it. You live it. And in that, you can raise your hand to the sky if you wish and say, thank you, thank you, thank you, that I just had the greatest revelation of who I am. For I, you might say, and we're part of the creative source of all things. And you be right. You'd be right. That is the beauty of the soul that all of you have, that is forever, that always exists, even after the body quits. You are you, part of that which is everything. That is the beauty of the message that we bring and will continue to bring. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service.
It's a beautiful time. And if I told you that I know who is here, would you really understand that? So many times you have heard me say, I know who is in the chair, I know who is listening. There are no secrets from God. I am from the great central source. I am a piece of the whole, like you are. Because I've never been a human being, I do not have the biases that you do of corporealness or 3D-ness. But I have the love for you based upon the work that you're doing. Now, before we even begin, I'm going to alert the listener to something that those in the chairs already know. That my partner had a difficult time getting here today. Now, there is a saying that says, there are no accidents. The saying is a metaphysical development of the belief in synchronicity and co-creation, all having purpose. Sometimes when challenge happens, as it often does in duality, you might criticize it as being inappropriate or wrong, or even suffering. But there are no accidents. And so, my partner has said to me 3 times today, why? Why did he miss his flight? Why did he have to take a 2-hour bus to an airport he had never been to and get on a plane to a city he had never visited to be picked up and drive 2 more hours to be 6 hours late to a meeting? He's never missed a meeting. Not on this continent, and he didn't miss this one. But in the process of getting here, he asked why. If there are things to be learned, what are they? And why should he experience this and drag all of those in the room with him? So that this is now a night meeting and it's almost 11 p.m. I'll give you the answer. It's a metaphor and a lesson. It's not for him. It's for all of you. And I'm going to revisit this because it is the theme of this channel. The theme you've heard before. Things are not always as they seem. Here is the metaphor, and it is for the day, it is for the time on this planet, it is for many of you to see and understand. All of you in the room held a ticket for this event. All of you in the room, when you purchased the ticket, felt you knew when things were going to happen. because of the linearity of how you live your life and the clock and what you expect, because of the protocol of what meetings are like, you saw yourself in advance here at a certain time during the day and leaving when it was over. You scheduled your time appropriately, when you would leave, the drive time to home, all of that. And then suddenly it changed. How many of you were tempted to say, because it was not as expected, I'm not going? In this room, very few. But that's not the way it is in life. The start of this meeting happened after the time the other one was supposed to end. It wasn't just late, dear ones. It was over. And then it began. How many of you hold a ticket for something that you have been asking for a long time? You paid your dues, dear ones. You got it in your hand, and then it didn't happen. I'm talking to a lot of you listening to me now, and both present and not present in this room. And how do you feel about it when the things have not transpired as you thought they should? In fact, it's gone beyond being late. It looks like they're not going to happen. The healing that has been promised to you, the associations, the business, the reawakening, there are so many. I know who you are. And in linearity, you are disappointed. The things around you are not unfolding as you thought they would, as you were expected they would, all your life perhaps. You come to this point and there's a change. And you're sitting there by yourself holding the ticket. And you don't know why it's happened. And here's what I want to tell you for this instance. I want you to notice what this metaphor was today. You were asked to wait. And it didn't happen, and it didn't happen. You were asked to trust that it would, and it didn't happen. And then way after the fact, when it was even supposed to be over, there was still the chance it wouldn't happen. And then it did. For those in the room, in this tiny little metaphor, the entire meeting has now happened and you are at the end of it. And you can look backwards and you can say to yourself, I'm glad I didn't go home. You can say, I'm glad I waited through it. I had the ticket and I got what I came for. I want to make a statement to you that God loves you enough to honor the ticket. Maybe not in a time frame that you like or that you expect, but you wouldn't have the ticket if it weren't supposed to happen. Do not despair. These things are not always what you expect. Can you go the whole route? Could you wait even after the meeting was over to have what you expected? I'm going to get back to that. I want to review a little bit of history and fill in the cracks of the profundities of this shift on the planet that are happening. As I said last night, I have arrived in 1989 triggered by 1987 harmonic convergence. There's so much more than that. You began to change early, and we saw it. The harmonic convergence was a result of profound potential. When I came in, I gave you many predictions. Almost all of them have now resulted in manifestation. But they weren't prophecy. And I want you to understand the difference. You have today's technology which allows you to see storms coming 1,000 miles away. You can prepare a week in advance for something that may hit you. And you'll be ready. If somebody were to do that 200 years ago, without the instruments, and say a storm is coming in a week, and then it did, they would be put on a pedestal. They would have shamanic abilities. They would be a holy person who could predict. So what was the difference between a shaman and a meteorologist? And the answer is that the meteorologist could see it coming and tell about the potentials from a distance. In 1987, that's what happened. We could see it coming. And in 89, when I came in and began the channeling, telling you the shift is at hand, the battle is at hand, light versus dark will be what you face from now for a few years. You will have no Armageddon. The magnetic grid will shift and change. These were not prophecies. They were potentials based on a long range that we could see. We saw how humanity was shifting and changing in ways you could never see independently. For we had a picture of billions of souls all at once. I want you to understand that because of what I'm going to tell you next. We still have these potentials. We can still see what's coming based upon the same principles that allowed us to give you the first prophecies we gave you, which were potentials. We wrote about the indigo children because they were forerunners. Before the shift occurred, humanity started to change. The DNA actually within these children was different than yours. And it was different not in a chemical way, but in a quantum way. You're not going to see it in the microscope, dear ones. But you can see it in the actions and the consciousness that's represented. This was not a prophecy. We saw it coming based upon the potentials of human consciousness. Now, the indigo children, they represented a slightly changed human DNA that we told you was quantum. Based upon the magnetic grid shift, which is also quantum, and a consciousness shift of the planet. Someday you will see that human consciousness has physics and it is quantum as well. All of this to say one thing: they relate to one another, and we saw it coming. And it was, and it did. Isn't it interesting that more than 10 years before a potential shift on the planet, that the kids started to change anyway? Before December 21st, the middle of the precession of the equinoxes, way before it, the beginning of the shift represented in the children of the planet
began anyway. I want you to pay attention to this because this is the way it works. There is an anticipation factor. It has begun already. There are those human beings whose DNA is working above 33%, and you're going to recognize them and see them clearly. And some of them will take the form of children geniuses, and there's going to be far too many for coincidence. It's not a prediction, dear ones. It's a potential. One of the attributes of an increased DNA functionality is increased wisdom, increased intelligence, and the ability to see system resolution faster. Some of the indigo children already have that ability. Some of you are starting to receive it without having to come in again. That's what I want to talk to you about. What do you think calibration and recalibration is really about? Come on. Is that to make you feel better? Well, how do you feel? Because it's not done, and you know it's not done. There are gifts being given to you right now, before the battle of dark and light has even actually begun. We are changing your DNA because you've asked for it, because you passed this marker. And the result, dear ones, is that corporally you are uncomfortable. This is all coming back. Did you hear me? How many of you lost your joy to live? Don't despair. The ones not in this room, necessarily the ones listening, don't despair. Because that joy is going to come back. How many of you just have had a bad day and remember it and went into perhaps a minor depression only to have it all come back later? And in retrospect, you said, wow, I'm glad I didn't make any decisions when I was depressed. Well, I want you to think about that because you need to hear that right now. This is not the time for some of you to be making decisions. Not only is it coming back, it's coming back and doubling. And we've said that before. Your gifts are being increased because your DNA is going to work far more than 33. You know what 44 is going to be? Long before the Tibetans are going to tell you, I'll tell you. I'll give you a hint. 4 is indeed a Gaia number, and that is something to look at. Is there perhaps a link to Gaia that you haven't seen before? Let me ask you a question. Why are the cetaceans in the Gaia group? That's just a little hint. What is 4 and 4 together? Manifestation. What is it that you might manifest when you get to 44? I will tell you that. Peace on earth. That is the potential. That's not the storm coming. That's the sun coming out. I've never told you that before, did I? See, things are not always as they seem. Things clear. And I can reveal things that perhaps I couldn't reveal last week because the potentials are that much grander today than they were last week. You got a battle in front of you. And we talked about it last night. And the battle is of dark and light, and it's profound, and you're starting to see it on the planet. Now you see the faces, now you've given a name. Now you know how to fight it. Or do you? Or do you? My partner has mentioned to the crowds many times that it is time for good news on broadcast. That it has taken hold on what you have called the internet before. And that various videos go viral that are heartwarming and beautiful. Going viral, my partner says, means tens of millions of people see them over and over and tell their friends. They're heartwarming. They make you feel good. Stories of courage and heroicness, children doing things, the rescue of animals, animals talking to humans, all manner of things. We told you that it's time for this to hit mainstream television. I give you a prediction. The one who decides to fund this for the first time will have the same kind of fame that the one did who decided to start something called Google or something called Facebook. Paradigms which had never been seen on the planet, and others told them nobody could do it, nobody would be interested, and it wouldn't work. And today you see it. Not only did it work, it has become a paradigm. The one who decides to fund the new Good News Network will go down in history as changing the planet. The one who had the insight and the vision to know how new humans are thinking and make a commercial endeavor about it. Make no mistake, I am not telling you that there is supposed to be a television channel that is New Age or that has Kryon. Hardly. Just let it be like the internet. Let it show the clips and talk about the stories and bring in the people and discuss it. And it will attract tens of millions of people away from the news, away from the horror. And the first people to see that this is going to be working are the advertisers. That's why it's going to work. This is the challenge. The first one to have the courage to fund this, endure the jabs of ridicule and laughter as they move the paradigm of the planet, will be famous. There's someone listening right now and they're saying something, and I want to repeat it. Now, if somebody's listening now, I don't mean in the room. This is a hard concept for you, isn't it? That there's somebody in your future listening to this, and I know what they're going to say. Now, that is not prophecy, because I know who they are. And they will say, Kryon, this is ignorance and innocence, naivety. You've got this vast army building that is evil, that's given itself a name, that thinks nothing of murder on a grand scale. And you're going to fight it with videos of cute animals. That's not going to work, they'll say. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Oh, yes, it is. You don't know what I know. Things are not always as you think they're going to be or as they seem, because you don't know about the benevolence factor. You don't know how light can spread. When humans start thinking a certain way and how it catches on and almost becomes contagious, and what that does to other humans, what the broadcast of these things worldwide can do to regular humanity. It's not just what you think in 3D. Let me tell you how it might work. Now listen,
You have an enemy in front of you. Do you want to know how to win this battle? Do you want to know how to slay that enemy? Don't kill him. Do not take life. Don't become them. Let's get smart. Cut off their funding. And you say that's impossible. There are too many with too much money who will fund them. Not if the population of the planet objects. They won't. The part of the population that's looking at the channel with cute animals. The part of the population that respects life and loves one another and sees the potential for a peaceful earth and what it might mean. What it might mean to the Middle East to finally solve. Maybe it'll take a generation, but to solve that ancient hatred. Cut off their funding. It's not going to be that hard because the funding has to come from somewhere. And that somewhere doesn't just sprout from the ground, dear ones. It has to be approved. It has to pass through banks. It has to buy things in order for that darkness to exist and fight. And I'm telling you, that's the source. Common sense will tell you that's the source. Now, I've just presented something I've never said before. The benevolence factor is real. It's an amplification of the light in human consciousness. It is infectious. For the new human will gravitate toward peaceful things, not toward drama. Slowly, you will see certain kinds of television programs reduce their population, their popularity. The advertisers will see it too. And they won't want to fund anymore programs that show people arguing for fun. Watch this. I want you to see something that is not a prediction, but a potential. Now I want to get back to the ticket. In 1987, you might say humanity purchased a ticket for a meeting. And the meeting would have a name. The New Jerusalem. And some of you know what I'm talking about. The city on the hill in peace. As goes Israel, goes the earth. And that is the focus. And that is the ticket that you have. Peace. And you've waited, and you've waited, and you've waited, and you've waited. And you were almost there, you thought. And suddenly it got worse. Not that it just get worse, it got funded. They can't win, dear ones, because you got a ticket. How long is it worth waiting for? And what are you going to do? Are you just going to hold it in your hand? Are you going to suffer through it? Are you going to be a victim wondering when it's going to happen? Or are you going to hold it up high and say, we deserve this, and it's coming. Let's go. Let's figure out how to defeat the darkness. We'll start with yourselves, becoming more gentle to one another, practicing on a micro level what the macro consciousness of the planet will have to learn. How long will it take? How long will you wait? The next time you're born,
Yes. When you reincarnate, if this earth is not yet in peace, I'm going to tell you esoterically, metaphorically, metaphysically, when you are born, you'll be holding a ticket. You will come in with this attribute. This is what you're going to want as a child. This is going to be your passion, and everything you see around you, if it doesn't agree with this, you're going to fight it. And you're going to fight it with that which you know works. Integrity, honesty, gentleness, compassion, action. It's infectious. That's the factor nobody expects because it's not in 3D. It's not a prophecy. It's a fact. It's coming. And we see it. You've got the tickets. Don't put them away. Don't tear them up. Don't be discouraged. Hang in there. Because things are not always as they seem. I know your name. And I'm proud of you. And so it is.